What are the most traded currencies in the world? Hello traders, this is Igor from FX Igor YouTube channel, and right now you're on my website. I wrote one article, most traded currencies in the world. I know that you are maybe advanced trader and that this topic is not important for you, but sometimes we need to little bit think about currency pairs that we trade. We need to think about major currency pairs and changes that we can see in the industry. The first thing that I want to show you right now in this article is that I created a list of 10 most traded major currencies, but this list is not ordered. So this is not something that we think that should be. Why is that? It's because that right now Chinese yuan is currency that is on the real trading spot, maybe 4 or 5. So in the past it was on the 9-10 place on this list, but right now average change. So as we know, the most traded currencies in the world are US dollar, euro, Japanese yen, pound sterling, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, Swiss franc, China's yuan, Hong Kong dollar, and New Zealand dollar. However, as I just made one screenshot, you can see that from 2019 to 2022, we have a huge growth for Chinese yuan. So it's number 5 on the list right now, and there is a 62% increase in monetary environment use of this currency. So as we can see, some currencies traders use more, not just traders, companies, people, exporters, importers. So because of that, we need to reevaluate all these currencies and maybe to start to trade some exotics currency pairs. I will just right now put a few facts that you maybe already know, but in this video, maybe if you're a beginner, I just want to tell a few things about that. The first thing, the US dollar is the most traded currency in the world. And as you know, the US dollar, often called a greenback, is the most traded currency worldwide, forming the cornerstone of foreign exchange market. And you can see if you trade euro dollar, British pound dollar, Aussie dollar, Kiwi dollar, whatever you trade, major currency pairs, if you cross with US dollar, you will see that US dollar has the biggest impact. So usually you will see that if a US dollar is weak, all these currency pairs will go bullish, like euro dollar, British pound dollar, Aussie dollar, Kiwi dollar. And you will see how it's not smart to trade several currency pairs like euro dollar, British pound dollar, etc. to trade on the same way in the same time, because usually these currency pairs will go in the same direction. The next thing that I want to tell you that the universal acceptance of US dollar has led some countries to adopt their official currencies, a practice known as dollarization, bypassing the need for a local currency. This information is very important for our traders. Why? Because a lot of countries use US dollar in international transactions, but lately, in last year, we saw that countries that deal with Russia or deal with South America or India, they started to change this habit. And usually they try to use domestic currencies and to avoid dollar, which can impact the weaker dollar in future months and years. And this sentences, just remember, this is something that can change. Of course, your US dollar will be the strongest currency because America is the leading economy in the world. But I remember Peter Baines on lecture that I listened, he said, if you see that criminals use US dollar, you can be sure that US dollar is the strongest currency. And I remember that thought. But the same rule we can apply if you see that the big importers, big exporters use US dollar will be strong currency. But if you see some changes, think about that, monitor that, and watch China and China's yuan. One of the important things that I want to add is euro. The euro introduced the world market on January 1st, 1999 with the physical banknotes and coins, circulating 3 years later, and has become a second most traded currency, trailing only behind the US dollar. This is true. However, like I said, we need to monitor Chinese yuan and watch what's happening in Eurozone, because in the latest few years, Euro is really weaker than US dollar. one of the important things about euro that you can check on the chart is that euro, after big depression at 2008, it was more than 10 years from now, never recovered from that. Because if you're a trader in those times, the euro was, much stronger than US dollar. But after this crisis that hit the US, Europe never recovered in real sense. And US dollar started to be much stronger. And this is something that we need to watch and see that relation on maybe monthly chart and make some kind of projections and scenarios in the future. The euro's liquidity and widespread use make a favorite among speculators who view as a measure of eurozone overall health and political stability. Political events, particularly in countries like Italy, Greece, Spain, and Portugal, which experience significant interest rate drops with euro exception, can lead to high trades volumes. This sentence is very important because when you monitor the news about European bank, it's good, and all traders do that. You can go to any calendar, you will see that. But sometimes, my advice to you, you should be cautious and read the news about Italy, about Greece, about Spain, about strong economies, especially Germany, because economy of those countries have high weight on the whole European strength. So, European Union, it's not 27 countries equally strong in one big country. No, Germany, Italy, Spain, Greece, etc. Some countries are much important for the whole economy of European Union. So you need to monitor that and thinking about that. One of the interesting facts is that as the world's second most significant reserve currency, the euro comprises roughly 20% of the global reserves by the volume, reflecting its broad acceptance and stability. This is the very important thing to think, because euro dollar is one of the highest volume, highest liquid pairs in the world. And because of that, you will see that a lot of brokerage companies offer very tight spreads. So trading euro dollar can reduce your costs. However, the problem with euro dollar are trends, because maybe British pound dollar has a better trend than euro dollar, but this is just my opinion that I don't want to serve you. You should make conclusion by your own. One important thing that I just want to add about Eurozone, the member states, collective economic policies and healthy play a crucial role in shaping the euro's strength and stability on the global stage. So you need to monitor all the policies and all important information about Euro and European Union, because they have a huge impact for whole world. Like I said, 20% of the strength of all currencies are in euro. So do not forget that. The next thing is Japanese yen. And in the Asia, it's a dominant currency. Like I said, the Japanese yen stands as a premier currency in Asia, and it's often seen a measure of Japan's manufacturing and export-oriented economic health. And when we talk about Japanese yen, we need to monitor economic indicators such as the BOE meeting announcement, GDP data, industrial production indices, Tenkan survey, unemployment figures to closely monitor by forex traders use. So this is very important, because Japanese yen, if you are a trader, you will see that there is some specific in all Japanese yen currency crosses. And in my opinion, if you use, for example, Ishimoku Cloud, it's a maybe good strategy, because if you use Ishimoku Cloud for euro dollar, British pound, in my personal opinion, in technical analysis, much better things you will do if you use on Japanese yen pair, not on other pair. So the Japanese yen crosses are very, like I said, trendy. They like to follow big trend, and they very easy can go in overbought and oversold areas and be there very long time. So if you trade Japanese yen crosses and monitor Japanese yen, you need to remember that this currency pair can be very tricky, and very often you can see strong trend and a lot of false reversals. So in my opinion, you need to be expert Japanese yen pairs, and it's not the same when you trade US dollar crosses. One thing that is very important happens in 2011, that the Bank of Japan occasionally intervenes in the forex market to stabilize the yen, employing tactics that result in a dirty float rather than a strict currency peg. This is very important because when Japanese yen and we have that kind of intervention, it's a crazy. I remember several times in my life when the kind of interventions, we had a 300 pips per day. And sometimes we had 5, 6, 7, 8 days in a row with a strong bullish trend or strong bearish. And it's really, really crazy. Of course, the market is not like that right now, but you need to remember that crazy bullish and bearish moves is because the Japanese bank has big influence and, like I said, intervenes in the forex market employing tactics that result in dirty flow. And this is something unusually and very, very important for beginner and for advanced traders. Now, pound sterling, my really, really favorite currency. The Great British pound of pound sterling is the fourth most traded currency in the forex market, a testament to an enduring significance and liquidity. So this pair has beautiful trends and a very strong volatility, and if you want sometimes to catch a big trend, British pound dollar is very good, British pound yen is very good opportunity. What is the important thing about pound is that the pound values is influenced by the UK economic indicators such as inflation rates, the Bank of England monetary policies, GDP, employment data, and this is one of the oldest currencies in the world. So you need to monitor day by day and try to trade during the periods of the European session and in the moment when the European session overlaps with the US session, because in that moment British pound dollar is the strongest. Now we are talking about Australian dollar. The Australian dollar, a commodity currency. I just want to tell you that in the theory, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, and New Zealand dollar we call commodity currencies because these three countries are big exporters. They export a lot, and because of that, they're correlated the price with commodities. So, for example, if you hear the news that China is slowing down, China plan to reduce the imports from the Canada or New Zealand or Australia, in that moment you can see how Aussie Kiwi or Canadian dollar will crash, because these moments are very, very important. We had that moment, I think, 2 years after the big crash in 2008, because of the huge crisis in America. The whole world after 2 years feel the pain because of that depression, and the China started to slow down. And when the China started to slow down, these three currencies, New Zealand dollar, Australian dollar, and Canadian dollar, started to depreciate, started to go down. And this is everything correlated. So when we talk about Australian dollar, always think about commodities and about exports. Monitor exports news about Australian dollar. As we know, the Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, plays a pivotal role in managing the currency with its monetary policies and interest rate decisions directly influencing Australian dollar value. This is, of course, something that you already know. And you know the economic factors such as GDP growth, employment rates, RBA monetary policy settings are critical indicators of the Australian dollar's performance. And very similar speech I can talk about Canadian dollar. It's again commodity currencies. And we know Canadian dollar as a loonie, and as a commodity currency, the loonie's value often mirrors the fluctuation in commodity prices, with crude oil prices having a particularly pronounced impact. So this is one catch that you can do. For example, you hear some news related to oil. You can trade oil, but you can always trade Canadian dollar related pairs because everything is connected. If oil price is going down, Canadian loonie go down. So this is the something that's important to know, because like I said, this is typical commodity currency. And what is the important here? As usually, Canadian dollar is accessible to the changes in U.S. economic conditions, including GDP growth, employment data, and monetary policy shifts. And this economic interdependence means that factors affecting the U.S. economy can directly and significantly impact the value and stability of the Canadian dollar in forex market. So this sentence, please remember, because US dollar and Canadian dollar are very, very correlated and connected. So sometimes you will see that there's no news about Canadian dollar, only about US dollar. And you trade, for example, Aussie CAD, New Zealand dollar CAD. You don't trade US dollar CAD. And you see how US dollar news impact Canadian dollar. I know it's a crazy. I know that you will say that there is no connection, there's no correlation. Yes, there is a correlation. So you always need to monitor US dollar when you trade Canadian dollar. It's a very, very important thing and very, very important tip that can help you to save your fund. Next, Swiss franc. As you know, the Swiss franc is a beacon of the stability in the forex market. What we know is that Switzerland's historical stance of neutrality, renewed the bank's secrecy, have cemented the franc status in the haven currency, attracting capital flows in turbulent times. So as we know, when we have some crisis, a lot of people, a lot of industries will convert euro or US dollar into Swiss franc. And very, very often you will see during the crisis how Swiss franc is going up. And this is very important thing. And my advice is always to monitor crisis and crisis news with Swiss franc, and maybe you will find some kind of opportunity there. This is something that maybe you didn't know. And then right now, I just want to talk about a currency that's really be very soon, maybe number 2 in the world, maybe number 3, I don't know. It's a Chinese Yuan, and this official currency of People's Republic of China. And right now it's ranking as the 8th most traded currency with a significant daily trading volume that underscores its growing presence in the global finance. Historically, it's connected to US dollar, and but in recent days and years, we see that Yuan is more flexible, has more flexibility. And this is something that can change the whole market. What is the interesting thing is that the China always trying to favor a weaker yuan to boost its export competitiveness, leading to skepticism about commitment to fully free-floating currency regime. And this is the reason. So this sentence that I wrote is a reason why traders avoid to trade China's yuan, because very often the real price value is not that real, and this is the catch. So usually the government want that China's yuan is weak because the China is big exporter. So because of that, traders don't like that. We want open and free market. So when we see that kind of movements that are not usually do not follow the technical analysis, we don't like that. So be caution if you trade China's yuan. If you don't, no worry. But if you trade, you know the country has a huge impact, so you need to think about that. Now about Hong Kong dollar, this is the pair that a very small number of traders trade, but actually this currency is very used in international transactions. And it's a crucial center for international trade, logistics, finance, tourism, manufacturing, and Hong Kong attracts forex traders worldwide. Despite it, like I said, Hong Kong dollar is not being a primary reserve currency. What is the important thing that I want to tell you about this currency is that recent years have seen the Hong Kong dollar under depression pressures due to factors such as civil unrest with Hong Kong, economic slowdown in China, escalating trade tensions between the US and China. And this is the problem. And remember always when you see the fight between the US and China, when you talk about monetary fight, you can see that rapid depreciation of the Hong Kong dollar. And do not forget this kind of correlation if you trade exotic currency pairs. And the New Zealand dollar, as you know, commodity currency, everything that I said about Australian dollar, everything I said about Canadian dollar, I can tell about New Zealand dollar. And what is the important thing is that the Reserve Bank of New Zealand employs a flexible inflation targeting regime, adjusting interest rate to maintain inflation with a specific target range, influencing the New Zealand valuation. And another important thing is that compared to other countries, the relative level of New Zealand interest rates is a critical factor in the New Zealand appeal to global investors. So, a higher interest rates in New Zealand can attract foreign investments, leading to New Zealand dollar appreciation, while lower rates may result in depreciation against other currencies. This is something that it's obviously the same thing as for US dollar, euro, and etc., etc. But I can tell in my experience, if you measure the volatility when we see the interest rate decisions and the unexpected change, that volatility can be very, very high. And I remember New Zealand dollars, Japanese yen, it was really, really, really huge volatility. So if you trade the news related to New Zealand dollar, you need to be cautious and you always need to reduce your risk. So be really, really cautious. I'm talking this from my bad experience. So this is the very, very important. And for the end, I will just tell my last sentence in this article again, and that sentence says, commodities currencies such as Australian dollar and Canadian dollar highlight the importance of natural resource in determining nations' financial health and trade dynamics. The Swiss franc and the Japanese yen, often seen as safe havens, underscore the geopolitical, economical factors influencing currency values. And finally, emerging market currencies like a Chinese yuan are gaining prominence, illustrating shifts in the global economic power and evolving nature of national trade and investment. So, as you can see, each currency pair, all of them, they have some important characteristics. And do not forget that characteristics. And all tips that I just talked in this long video, I hope that you will adopt and use in your real-time trading. This is all. I wish you a great day and bye-bye.